Maya Rodriguez crouched behind the rocky outcrop and watched the sky burn. Her scanner showed energy readings that made no sense. Whatever was falling through the atmosphere was bigger than any ship she had ever seen, and it was dying. The vessel screamed overhead, trailing fire and metal fragments. Maya could see pieces breaking off as it passed, each chunk glowing white-hot against the dark sky of the small moon. She had been tracking illegal miners for 3 weeks on this dead rock called Kepler-4 for to see her. But this was something else entirely. The ship hit the ground 5 miles away with a sound like thunder. The impact shook the ground under Maya's feet and sent a mushroom cloud of dust and debris into the thin atmosphere. She waited for secondary explosions, but heard only the settling groans of twisted metal. Maya checked her equipment one more time. Her rifle was loaded, her scanner was working, and her emergency beacon was ready if she needed backup. She should call this in right now. Command would want to know about any alien technology, especially something this advanced. But something made her hesitate. The ship's design was unlike anything in her military database. It wasn't angular and brutal like Zephyrian warships. It wasn't sleek and predatory like Caldari raiders. The twisted wreckage looked almost organic, as if it had been grown rather than built. The metal itself seemed to shimmer with colors that shifted when she wasn't looking directly at them. Maya started walking toward the crash site. Her boots crunched on the frozen ground as she picked her way between scattered debris. Some of the larger pieces were still glowing with residual heat, and her scanner picked up energy signatures that flickered like dying heartbeats. The main hole had carved a crater, nearly 100 feet across. Steam rose from the impact site where superheated metal met the ice below the surface. Maya approached carefully, watching for any sign of movement or hostile activity. Her finger stayed near her rifle's trigger, but she didn't feel threatened. The ship felt more sad than dangerous. A section of the hull had been torn open during the crash, creating a jagged entrance into the ship's interior. Maya activated her helmet light and stepped inside. The passages were wider than human standard, with smooth curves instead of sharp corners. Everything was designed for beings larger than human, but not by much. Emergency lighting flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. Maya followed what looked like a main corridor, stepping over fallen beams and around pools of some kind of luminescent fluid that leaked from damaged systems. She found him in what might have been the command center. The alien was sprawled across the floor, near a shattered control station. At first glance, he looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head where it should be, but the similarities ended there. His skin had a pale blue tint, like ice in moonlight. Strange patterns covered his arms and neck, lines that glowed with faint silver light. They pulsed slowly, like a weak heartbeat. He was badly hurt. Maya could see burns along his left side and a deep gash across his forehead that leaked dark blue blood. His breathing was shallow and labored. But what struck her most was his face. Even unconscious and injured, he looked peaceful. There was something noble about his features, something that made her think of ancient statues. Maya knelt beside him and checked for obvious injuries. His body temperature was lower than human normal, but he didn't feel cold. The glowing patterns on his skin were warm to the touch. She couldn't tell if they were natural markings or some kind of technology, but they seemed to pulse faster when she touched them. She was reaching for her medical kit when the ship groaned around them. Metal screamed against metal, and sparks showered from damaged systems. The emergency lighting flickered more urgently. Maya's scanner started beeping warnings about power buildup in the ship's core systems. The ship was going to explode. Maya grabbed the alien under his arms and started dragging him toward the exit. He was heavier than he looked, but not impossibly so. His body felt strange against her hands, warmer than his skin temperature suggested, as if there was energy moving just beneath the surface. She pulled him through the corridors as emergency. Alarms began wailing in frequencies that hurt her ears. The ship was coming apart around them. Panels sparked and fell from the ceiling. The floor vibrated with increasing violence as critical systems failed. Maya reached the breach in the hull just as the first secondary explosion lit up the ship's interior. The blast knocked her forward, and she tumbled out of the ship with the alien in her arms. They rolled down the crater's slope as more explosions echoed behind them. Maya kept rolling until they were well clear of the wreckage. She looked back to see the entire ship consumed in a pillar of blue-white fire that reached toward the stars. The explosion was beautiful and terrible, like watching a star die. When the fire faded, nothing remained but a crater full of cooling metal. Whatever technology had powered that ship was gone forever. Maya looked down at the alien in her arms. The explosion had awakened him. His eyes were open now, large and silver like mirrors. They reflected her helmet light as he stared up at her with an expression of wonder and confusion. He tried to speak. The words came out as musical sounds, rising and falling like a song. Maya couldn't understand the language, but the meaning was clear in his voice and his eyes. He was thanking her. This stranger from another world was grateful that she had saved his life. Maya helped him sit up. He moved carefully, testing his injuries. The glow patterns on his skin pulsed brighter as he moved, and Maya noticed that some of his wounds were already starting to close. The deep cut on his forehead had stopped bleeding, and the burns on his side looked less severe than they had inside the ship. He looked at her with those strange silver eyes and spoke again. This time he pointed to himself and made a sound that might have been his name. It sounded like Kale when filtered through human hearing. "Maya," she said, pointing to herself. "My name is Maya." Kale repeated her name carefully, pronouncing each syllable with the precision of someone learning a new language. When he smiled, Maya noticed that his teeth were slightly sharper than human standard, but his smile was warm and genuine. Maya's radio crackled with static. Command would be expecting her regular check-in soon. They would want to know about the crash, about the alien technology, about Kale himself. Standard procedure was to report any contact with unknown species. Immediately, Maya looked at Kale as he struggled to stand on unsteady legs. She thought about the corporate research stations where they would take him. She thought about the questions they would ask and the experiments they would perform. She thought about what happened to anything unusual that fell into military hands. She made a decision that would change everything. Maya reached for her radio and activated her emergency beacon. The signal would tell command that her equipment had failed and she was going dark. Search and rescue would look for her, but it would take time. Time she could use to figure out what to do next. She helped Kale to his feet and pointed toward the distant hills where she had hidden her ship. He nodded, understanding, and took a step forward. His legs nearly gave out, but he steadied himself with one hand on her shoulder. As they walked away from the crater, Maya felt the weight of her choice. She was harboring an alien of unknown capabilities and origin. She was violating direct orders and military protocol. She was risking her career, her freedom, and possibly her life. But when she looked at Kale limping beside her, trusting her completely despite not knowing her language or her species, Maya knew she had made the right choice. She just hoped she was strong enough to protect him from whatever came next. Maya's safe house was built into the side of a cliff on the far side of the moon. It had been her home base for 6 months while tracking the illegal mining operations. The hideout was invisible from above and had enough supplies to last 2 people for several weeks. Kale recovered faster than Maya had expected. On the first day, he could barely walk without help. By the 3rd day, he was moving around the small shelter with careful steps. By the end of the first week, he was helping her with daily tasks, despite still not speaking much of her language. Maya watched him learn with growing amazement. Kale seemed to absorb information like a sponge. He studied her equipment with intense curiosity, touching damaged items with gentle fingers. When he touched her broken scanner, something incredible happened. The device suddenly started working again, as if it had never been damaged. Kale looked embarrassed when Maya stared at him in shock. He made apologetic sounds and tried to explain. With gestures and a few words he had learned, Maya understood that this ability was normal for his people, but he seemed worried about frightening her. The glowing patterns on his skin were fascinating to watch. They pulsed differently depending on his mood and activity. When he was concentrating, they glowed brighter. When he was resting, they barely flickered. When he sensed something approaching from outside, they flared with urgent light. That was how Maya learned that Kale could detect ships from incredible distances. On the 10th day, Kale suddenly stood up from where he had been studying her maps. The patterns on his arms blazed with silver light, and he looked toward the cave entrance with clear alarm. He spoke rapidly in his musical language, then switched to broken English. "Ships coming. Many ships. Bad feeling. Maya grabbed her binoculars and climbed to her observation post at the cave mouth. At first, she saw nothing but empty sky. Then, at the very edge of her vision, she spotted them. 3 black shapes moving fast across the horizon. She knew those ships. Sleek, predatory vessels with no identifying marks. Raven Corporation hunters. The most expensive killers in known space. Maya scrambled back into the cave. We need to leave now, but it was too late. The hunters' ships were fast, and they had found the safe house. Maya could hear their engines growing louder as they approached. She grabbed a rifle and ammunition while Kale watched with growing understanding. They come for me, he said quietly. Yeah, they come for you, but they'll have to go through me first. Maya had chosen this hideout carefully. There was only one way in, which made it easy to defend. She had prepared for this possibility, though. She had expected human military forces, not corporate bounty hunters. The first hunter to enter the cave died before he saw her. Maya's shot took him in the center of his chest, and he dropped without a sound. The other hunters immediately took cover and started shooting back. Maya had advantages they didn't know about. She knew every inch of the cave system. She had set up mirrors to see around corners and prepared fighting positions with overlapping fields of fire. Most importantly, she had spent 20 years learning how to kill people who were trying to kill her. The hunters were good, but Maya was better. She picked them off one by one, using the cave's narrow passages to prevent them from using their superior numbers. When they tried to rush her position, she was already somewhere else. When they tried to surround her, she collapsed part of the tunnel with explosives she had placed weeks earlier. The last hunter made it almost to her final defensive position before Maya put 3 bullets in his chest. He fell just 10 feet from where Kale was hidden, clutching Maya's backup pistol with hands that shook slightly. Maya searched the bodies while Kale watched. The hunters carried expensive weapons and military-grade equipment. Their leader had a data pad with her photograph and detailed information about her military service. Someone had paid a lot of money for very specific intelligence. But the most disturbing thing was what she found about Kale. The data pad contained anatomical diagrams of his species, detailed analysis of their abilities, and what looked like shipping instructions. Someone wanted Kale alive and intact for study. How did they know about you? Maya asked. Kale's expression was troubled. He struggled with the English words before answering. My people have enemies, some among my own kind. They want me silent forever. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold cave air. What did you do? I learned truth. Bad truth. Some of my people want war with humans. I try to warn humans, but ship broken. Now enemies know where I am. Maya stared at him. You were trying to help us. Kale nodded sadly. My people very powerful. If they choose war, humans will suffer much. I could not let this happen. The sound of more engines echoed from outside. Maya ran to her observation post and cursed when she saw what was approaching. More hunter ships, but these were different. Larger, better armed, and flying in military formation. We can't fight all of them, she told Kale. We need to run. Maya led him through a hidden passage that connected to a natural cave system deeper in the cliff. They moved quickly through narrow tunnels that scraped their shoulders and forced them to crawl in places. Behind them, Maya could hear explosions as the new arrivals blasted their way into her former hideout. They emerged from the cave system 2 miles away, where Maya had hidden an emergency vehicle. It wasn't much, just an old mining crawler with basic life support, but it would get them away from this place. As they drove across the barren landscape, Maya tried to process what she had learned. Kale was some kind of refugee from his own people. There was a faction among his species that wanted to start a war with humanity, and now both sides were hunting him. How long have your people been watching us? She asked. Long time. We stay hidden, but we watch. Most of my people want to stay hidden forever, but some believe humans are danger. They think humans grow too fast, learn too much. They want to stop humans before humans become too strong. Maya gripped the steering wheel tighter. And you disagreed with them? Yes. I study humans for many years. Humans are not evil. Humans are not threat to my people. Humans are ... curious like children who want to learn everything. This is good thing. not bad thing. They drove in silence for a while, crossing a landscape of frozen rock and ice. Maya's mind was racing. She was harboring an alien who had tried to warn humanity about a potential war. That made him incredibly valuable to human governments and military forces. It also made him incredibly dangerous to have around. Where were you trying to go when your ship crashed? She asked. Human capital world. Wanted to speak to human leaders. Tell them about war faction. Maybe find way to make peace. Maya laughed bitterly. You would have been dissected within hours of landing. Human governments don't negotiate with unknown aliens. They study them first and ask questions later. Kale looked at her with those large silver eyes. But you are human. You help me. You fight for me. Maybe other humans would do same. Maybe some would, but the people in charge, they'd see you as either a weapon to use or a threat to eliminate. They reached Maya's backup hideout as the sun set behind the mountains. This one was smaller and less comfortable, but it was well hidden and had communication equipment. Maya needed information about who was hunting them and how much they knew. While Ko rested, Maya activated her encrypted communication array and started reaching out to her network of contacts. What she learned made her blood run cold. The bounty on Ko wasn't just high, it was enormous. Every hunter crew in 3 sectors was heading toward their location. Worse, the reward was being offered by multiple parties. Human corporations, alien crime syndicates, and something called the Collective Authority were all bidding against each other. Maya turned off the communication array and sat in the dark, thinking she could turn Kale over to human authorities and probably collect a nice reward for herself. She could try to smuggle him off-world and dump him somewhere safe, or she could keep protecting him and probably die fighting an army of bounty hunters. She looked at Kale, who was sleeping peacefully despite everything that had happened. The glowing patterns on his skin pulsed slowly and regularly, like a calm heartbeat even in sleep. His face held that same noble expression she had first noticed in the crashed ship. Maya made her decision. She had saved Kale's life, and she wasn't going to abandon him now. She didn't fully understand what was happening or why so many people wanted him, but she knew one thing for certain. Anyone who wanted to take Kale would have to go through her first, and Maya Rodriguez had never lost a fight. She was determined to win. Maya's second hideout was an abandoned mining station built into an asteroid. The facility had been closed for 10 years, but the life support system still worked. More importantly, it had defensive positions and multiple escape routes. Ko was getting stronger every day. His English was improving rapidly, and he could now explain complex ideas without too much difficulty. Maya noticed other changes too. Sometimes when he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing more than just her physical appearance. It was as if he could sense her thoughts and emotions. One evening, as they sat in the station's old cafeteria sharing a meal, Ko finally told her the complete truth about who he was and why he was being hunted. My people are called the Ethereal Collective, he began. We are very old. We learned long ago how to blend technology with biology, matter with energy. We can do things that other species think are impossible. Maya watched the patterns on his skin pulse gently as he spoke, like fixing my scanner. Yes, but much more. We can change the shape of matter. We can move things without touching them. We can sense the thoughts and feelings of other beings. We have lived in harmony with the universe for thousands of your years. Kale's expression grew sad. But not all of my people are content with this peaceful existence. There is a faction led by one we call the Void Prince. He believes our power should be used to rule over other species, not hide from them. Maya felt a chill. And you opposed him. I was a seer, a keeper of knowledge and wisdom. I discovered that the Void Prince was planning to begin conquering less advanced civilizations. He wanted to start with humanity because humans are expanding rapidly through space. He sees you as a future threat. Kale reached across the table and touched Maya's hand. When their skin made contact, Maya felt a strange sensation, like electricity running through her nerves. For a moment, she could sense Kale's emotions directly, his fear, his guilt, his desperate hope that he could prevent a war. I stole evidence of his plans, Kale continued. I tried to reach human space to warn your leaders, but the Void Prince's agents sabotaged my ship. They infected me with something called the Silence. What's the Silence? Kale's patterns dimmed slightly. It is a weapon designed to cut a seer off from the energy fields that give us our abilities. It kills slowly and painfully. I should have died weeks ago. Maya stared at him. But you're still alive. You're getting stronger. Yes, I do not understand why. Something about being near you slows the poison. Our connection somehow fights the silence. Maya felt that strange sensation again, stronger this time. She could sense Kale's confusion and wonder. Their bond was growing deeper, but neither of them understood what it meant. Their conversation was interrupted by the mining station's proximity alarms. Kale's patterns immediately flared bright with warning. Many ships, he said urgently, more than before. Very dangerous. Maya ran to the station's control room and activated the external cameras. What she saw made her heart sink. At least 20 ships were approaching the asteroid. They flew in perfect formation, their black holes reflecting no light. But these weren't bounty hunters. These ships were military vessels, and Maya recognized their design. They were from the Coalition Defense Force, the same military she had served for 15 years. They found us, she whispered. The lead ship opened a communication channel. A familiar voice filled the control room, and Maya's blood turned to Ice Maya Rodriguez. This is Commander Jake Harrison. You are ordered to surrender immediately and turn over the alien entity. You have 5 minutes to comply. Maya closed her eyes. Jake Harrison had been her commanding officer for 3 years. He had trained her, promoted her, and recommended her for special operations. He was also the man who had taught her everything she knew about tactical warfare. You know him, Kale observed. He trained me. He knows how I think, how I fight. He knows all my tactics. Maya activated the station's defensive systems. The mining facility had been built to protect valuable ore from pirates, so it had shield generators and automated weapons. But against a full military assault, it wouldn't last long. Maya, I know you can hear me. Harrison's voice continued. You're harboring a hostile alien entity. You violated your oath and betrayed your own species. Surrender now, and you'll be treated fairly. Maya grabbed the communication microphone. Hello, Jake. Nice to hear from you, too. Maya, don't make this harder than it needs to be. We know what that thing is. We know it's been studying us, learning our weaknesses. It's a scout for an invasion force. That's not true, Maya replied. He was trying to warn us about a threat, not create one. Is that what it told you? Maya, you've been compromised. The alien has been manipulating your thoughts, making you believe its lies. You need medical attention. Maya felt Kale's hand on her shoulder. Through their connection, she could sense his sadness and resignation. He had expected this reaction from human authorities. I'm thinking clearly, Jake. Clearer than I've ever thought in my life. This alien isn't our enemy. He's trying to help us. Stand down, Maya. That's an order. I don't take orders from you anymore, Jake. I resigned. Remember? The communication channel went silent. Maya knew that Harrison was preparing his assault. She had seen him plan operations before. He would use overwhelming force to end the fight quickly. Maya turned to Kale. I need you to use your abilities. All of them. Can you do that? Kale looked troubled. Using my powers will speed up the silence. It could kill me. And if you don't use them, Harrison's troops will kill both of us. Then they'll dissect you to learn your secrets, and your people will think humans are hostile. The war you were trying to prevent will happen anyway. Kale nodded slowly. You are right. I will do what I can. The first attack came from 3 directions at once. Harrison's troops used breaching charges to blast through the station's outer hull, while his ships bombarded the defensive positions. Maya had expected this tactic because she had used it herself many times, but she had also prepared for it. The mining station became a maze of death traps. Maya had spent days rigging explosives, setting up crossfires, and preparing ambush positions. She knew every corridor, every hiding place, every weakness in the station's design. The first wave of troops walked into a carefully planned killing field. Maya's remote-controlled weapons cut them down before they could react. The second wave was more careful, but they encountered Kale's abilities for the first time. Maya watched in amazement as Kale extended his hands toward a group of soldiers. The patterns on his skin blazed with silver fire, and the soldiers' weapons simply stopped working. Their armor became too heavy to move in. The metal walls around them began to bend and twist, creating barriers that blocked their advance. But Maya could see the effort was costing Kale dearly. His skin was becoming paler, and he was breathing heavily. The silence was fighting back against his use of power. Harrison's voice echoed through the station's speakers. Maya, we have orbital bombardment on standby. Surrender now, or we'll blow this entire asteroid to pieces. Maya knew he wasn't bluffing. Harrison had never been one to make empty threats. But she also knew that he wouldn't destroy the station as long as he thought he could capture Kale alive. We need to keep them busy, she told Kale. Make them think we're still fighting. Maya triggered a series of explosive charges that sealed off the main access corridors. The blasts would force Harrison's troops to take longer routes, buying precious time. But time for what? They were trapped on an asteroid with no way to escape. Even if they could reach the emergency shuttles, Harrison's ships would intercept them within minutes. That was when Kale made a decision that changed everything. Maya, I must tell you something important. Our connection is not normal. It should not be possible between a human and one of my people. You are changing, becoming something new. Maya felt it too. The strange sensations were getting stronger. She could sense the approaching soldiers before they appeared. She could feel the emotions of everyone on the station, from Harrison's grim determination to his troops' fear and confusion. What's happening to me? I do not know. But I think you are becoming something that has never existed before. Part human, part collective. You have abilities that neither of our species possesses alone. Maya stared at him. Is that why the silence isn't killing you? Because of our connection? Yes. Your human spirit is fighting the poison. But more than that, you are taking some of my power into yourself. You are becoming a bridge between our peoples. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the station. Harrison's troops were breaking through the sealed corridors. They would reach the control room within minutes. Maya made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. She placed her hand on Kale's chest, directly over his heart. The patterns on his skin flared brighter than ever before. Then let's show them what we can do together. When Harrison's troops finally breached the control room, they found something that defied all their expectations. Maya Rodriguez stood in the center of the room, silver patterns glowing softly on her human skin. Beside her, Kale looked stronger than he had since the crash, and around them, reality itself seemed to bend and flow like water. Harrison's assault had created something entirely new, a human woman with abilities that transcended both species, and she was very, very angry. The battle for the mining station lasted 3 days. Maya fought with skills she had never possessed before, while Kale used his powers more freely than he had since the crash. Together, they held off Harrison's entire force. Maya could feel every soldier moving through the station. She knew where they were hiding, what they were planning, even what they were thinking. The silver patterns that now glowed under her skin allowed her to sense things that should have been impossible for a human. But the new abilities came with a price. Maya could feel Kale's pain as if it were her own. Every time he used his powers, the silence fought back harder. The poison in his system was like acid eating away at his life force. And their connection meant that Maya experienced every moment of his suffering on the second day of fighting. Harrison tried a different approach. Instead of sending soldiers, he came himself. Maya found him waiting in the station's main corridor, alone and unarmed. He looked older than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes and gray streaks in his dark hair. But his expression was the same mixture of disappointment and determination she remembered from their training days. "Hello, Maya. You look different?" Maya was aware of the silver patterns glowing softly on her arms and face. She could feel Kale's presence in her mind, sharing her thoughts and emotions. It should have felt strange, but instead it felt like she was finally complete. "I'm different, Jake. I'm better than I was." Harrison shook his head. "You're infected. That alien has done something to you, changed you into something that isn't human anymore. I'm still human. I'm just more than I was before, Maya. Listen to me. We've been studying these aliens for months. We know they can manipulate minds, control thoughts, everything you're feeling, everything you think you know about that creature. It's all lies. Maya felt Kale's sadness through their connection. He had expected this reaction, but it still hurt to be called a monster by the people he had tried to save. You're wrong, Jake. Kale isn't controlling me. He's dying. That's what it wants you to believe. Maya, you were the best soldier I ever trained. You were smart, logical, practical. Look at what you've become. Look at what it's made you into. Maya stepped closer to Harrison. The patterns on her skin pulsed brighter, and she could sense his fear despite his calm exterior. It didn't make me into anything. It showed me what I could become. And what I've become is someone who won't let you hurt an innocent being. Harrison's hand moved slowly toward his sidearm. Maya, I don't want to hurt you, but I have orders. The alien comes with me, dead or alive, and I'm telling you, that won't happen. The fight between Maya and Harrison was brutal and personal. He knew all her old tactics, but Maya was no longer limited to purely human abilities. She moved faster than she should have been able to, anticipated his attacks before he made them, and fought with a combination of human determination and alien power that Harrison couldn't match. But Harrison was smart and experienced. He had brought backup plans. While Maya was fighting him, his troops were setting explosives throughout the station. If he couldn't capture Kale alive, he would make sure no one else could either. Maya defeated Harrison, but not before he activated the detonation sequence. The entire mining station would explode in 10 minutes, and there was no way to stop it. Maya dragged Harrison's unconscious body to the control room where Kale was waiting. The alien looked weaker than ever, his skin pale and the patterns on his body barely flickering. The station will explode soon, Maya told him. We need to leave. Kale shook his head weakly. I cannot travel far. The silence is winning. Each time I use my abilities, it grows stronger. Maya knelt beside him. Through their connection, she could feel the poison eating away at his life force. It was like watching a candle slowly burning out. There has to be something we can do. There is one possibility, Kale said quietly, but you will not like it. Maya waited for him to continue. The connection between us is keeping me alive, but it is also changing you. If we strengthen the bond completely, I might survive the silence, but you would become fully transformed. You would no longer be entirely human. Maya thought about what that meant. She was already changing, becoming something new. The silver patterns on her skin were proof of that. But to go further, to accept a complete transformation, would mean leaving humanity behind forever. What would I become? Something that has never existed before. A bridge between our species. You would have the best qualities of both humans and my people, but you would belong fully to neither. Harrison stirred and opened his eyes. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but his gaze was clear and focused. Don't do it, Maya, he whispered. Don't let it take your humanity away. Maya looked at Harrison, then at Kale. The alien was dying, and she was the only one who could save him. But the price would be everything she had ever been. If I do this, will you be able to stop the war? Kale's eyes brightened slightly. Yes, with the evidence I carry and the power we would share, we could convince both our peoples that cooperation is better than conflict. Maya, please, Harrison begged. Think about what you're giving up. Think about your family, your friends, your whole species. Don't abandon us for an alien. Maya felt Kale's sadness at Harrison's words. Through their connection, she understood that this was the choice Kale had feared she would have to make. He would rather die than force her to give up her humanity. But Maya had already made her decision. I'm not abandoning humanity, Jake. I'm trying to save it. Maya placed both hands on Kale's chest and opened herself completely to their connection. The silver patterns on her skin blazed with brilliant light. As power flowed between them, she felt Kale's memories flooding into her mind. Thousands of years of knowledge and experience from a species that had learned to live in harmony with the universe. At the same time, Kale absorbed her human spirit, her adaptability, her refusal to accept defeat. The silence that had been killing him meant something it had never encountered before. Pure human stubbornness wrapped in alien power. The transformation was agonizing and beautiful at the same time. Maya felt her human limitations falling away. As new abilities awakened within her, she could sense the life force of every being on the station. She could feel the molecular structure of the walls around them. She could perceive dimensions of reality that human senses could never detect. But she was still Maya Rodriguez. The core of who she was remained unchanged, even as everything else transformed around it. When the light faded, Maya looked different. The silver patterns now covered most of her body, pulsing with gentle light. Her eyes had gained a silver tint, and her movements had the fluid grace of Kale's people. But her expression was still recognizably human, still filled with the determination and compassion that had made her save Kale in the first place. Kale looked stronger than he had since the crash. The silence was still present in his system, but it was no longer winning. Maya's human spirit had given him the strength to fight back. Harrison stared at them both in horror and amazement. "What have you done?" "What I had to do," Maya replied. Her voice carried new harmonics, like music underlying speech. "Now we need to get off this station before it explodes." Maya reached out with her new abilities and simply stopped the detonation sequence. The molecular bonds holding the explosives together suddenly became unstable, causing them to dissolve harmlessly into their component elements. Harrison watched this display of power with growing fear. "You're not human anymore." "I'm something better," Maya said. "I'm what humans could become if we stopped being afraid of change." She helped Kale to his feet. Together, they walked toward the station's docking bay where Harrison's command ship waited. Behind them, Harrison struggled to follow, his mind reeling from what he had witnessed. Maya Rodriguez had made her choice. She had traded her pure humanity for the power to protect someone she cared about and prevent a war that could destroy both species. Now she had to live with the consequences of that choice and convince two entire civilizations that their future lay in cooperation, not conquest. The hardest part was yet to come. The Void Prince arrived 3 days later with a fleet that blocked out the stars. His flagship was a massive vessel that looked more like a living creature than a ship. It pulsed with dark energy and seemed to bend space around itself as it moved. Maya and Kale had chosen their battleground carefully. They waited on the surface of an ancient moon that Kale said was sacred to his people. The ruins of an old temple covered the landscape, built from stones that hummed with strange energy. Harrison had been forced to retreat. When his superiors learned about Maya's transformation, the human military wanted to study her, but they were too afraid of the approaching alien fleet to risk a confrontation. They pulled back to a safe distance and waited to see what would happen. Maya felt different since her complete transformation. The world looked brighter, more alive. She could sense the energy flowing through everything around her, from the smallest grain of sand to the massive ships in orbit above. Her human determination had combined with Kale's ancient wisdom to create something entirely new. Kale was stronger, too, but Maya could still feel the silence fighting inside him. Their bond had slowed the poison, but it hadn't eliminated it completely. Every moment they had together was precious. "Tell me about the Void Prince," Maya said as they prepared for the final confrontation. "He is very old, even by our standards," Kale replied. "He was once a great leader, but power corrupted him. He believes that strength gives the right to rule over others. He sees all other species as inferior, and he's coming here personally. Yes, he wants to make an example of us. A human who dares to bond with one of my people, and a seer who betrays his own kind. He will try to destroy us both to show that such alliances are impossible." Maya touched one of the ancient stones. Energy flowed through it like a slow heartbeat. "These ruins, they're important somehow. This place is where my people first learned to blend matter and energy. The barriers between dimensions are thin here. Power flows more freely." "Good," Maya said grimly. "We're going to need all the power we can get." The Void Prince came down from his ship alone, just as Maya had expected. Beings with his level of arrogance always believed they could handle any threat personally. He was tall and elegant, with the same basic body shape as KL, but covered in patterns that pulsed with dark purple light instead of silver. His presence felt wrong to Maya's enhanced senses, where Kale radiated warmth and life. The Void Prince felt cold and empty, as if something vital had been drained out of him long ago. So, the Void Prince said in perfect English, "This is the human who thinks she can interfere with matters beyond her understanding." Maya stepped forward. The silver patterns on her skin blazed brighter in response to his dark energy. "I understand enough. You want to start a war that will kill millions of innocent people." The Void Prince laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Innocent! Humans are a plague spreading across the galaxy. You consume everything you touch, destroy everything you cannot understand. You will become a threat to all civilized species if you are not stopped." "That's not true," Maya replied. "Humans make mistakes, but we also learn from them. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better." Pretty words from a creature who has abandoned her own species for alien power. Kale stepped up beside Maya. "She has not abandoned anything. She has become a bridge between our peoples. She shows what we could accomplish together." The Void Prince's expression turned contemptuous. "You always were a dreamer, young seer, but dreams do not change reality. Strength is the only truth that matters." The battle began without warning. The Void Prince raised his hand, and reality twisted around them. The ground beneath Maya's feet turned to liquid, while the air became thick as stone. Gravity shifted directions randomly, trying to crush her against the ancient stones. But Maya was no longer purely human. She reached out with her new abilities, and simply refused to accept the Void Prince's changes to reality. Her human stubbornness, enhanced by alien power, pushed back against his manipulations. The Void Prince's eyes widened in surprise. "Impossible! No being should be able to resist my power so easily." "I'm not just any being," Maya replied. "I'm something you've never encountered before." Maya attacked with a combination of human tactics and alien abilities that caught the Void Prince off guard. She moved in ways that defied physics while thinking with a strategic mind that no pure collective member possessed. Her assault was unpredictable, creative, and absolutely relentless. But the Void Prince was incredibly powerful and had thousands of years of experience. He adapted quickly to Maya's unusual fighting style and began pressing his own advantages. Dark energy lashed out from his hands, trying to tear apart the bonds that held Maya's hybrid nature together. Kale joined the battle, adding his own power to Maya's. Together, they were stronger than either could be alone. Their combined abilities created effects that neither species had ever achieved in isolation. The fight raged across the ancient temple ruins. Stones that had stood for millennia cracked and shattered under the forces being unleashed. Reality itself became fluid as three beings with godlike power struggled for dominance. Maya felt the Void Prince's strength and experience slowly wearing her down. He was simply too old, too powerful, too skilled for her to defeat in a straight fight. But Maya had learned something important during her years as a soldier. Sometimes you couldn't win by being stronger than your enemy. Sometimes you had to be smarter. "Kale," she called out during a brief pause in the fighting. "The silence in your system. Can you transfer it to someone else?" Kale's eyes widened as he understood what she was suggesting. "Yes, but it would require direct contact, and it might kill whoever receives it. Or it might kill someone who's used to having absolute control over energy." Maya launched herself at the Void Prince, not to attack him, but to grab him. Her human unpredictability allowed her to get past his defenses for just a moment. She wrapped her arms around him and held on as tightly as she could. "What are you doing?" the Void Prince demanded. "Something stupid and desperate," Maya replied Kale. "Now." Kale pressed his hands against both Maya and the Void Prince. The silence flowed out of his system and into the alien ruler, but instead of affecting Maya, the poison was drawn to the Void Prince's vast power, like metal to a magnet. The Void Prince screamed as the silence invaded his system. He was used to perfect control over his abilities, used to power flowing through him like a gentle river. The silence disrupted that flow, turning his own strength against him. Maya held on as the Void Prince thrashed and fought, trying to break free. She could feel the poison trying to affect her too, but her hybrid nature protected her. The silence had been designed to work against pure collective physiology, not against someone who was part human. Slowly, inevitably, the Void Prince's struggles grew weaker. The dark patterns on his skin flickered and went out. His ability to manipulate reality faded as the silence severed his connection to the energy fields that sustained his power. When Maya finally released him, the Void Prince collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. He was still alive, but his godlike abilities were gone. He was just an ordinary being now, powerless and afraid. "How?" he whispered. "You made one mistake," Maya told him. "You assumed that being different made humans weak. But our differences are what make us strong. We adapt, we change, we find ways to survive that nobody expects." Kale knelt beside Maya, his own patterns now glowing with healthy silver light. The silence was completely gone from his system, transferred entirely to the fallen Void Prince. "It is finished," Kale said softly. Maya looked up at the sky where the Void Prince's fleet waited in orbit. "Not quite. We still need to convince two entire civilizations that peace is possible." But that, Maya realized, was a challenge she was uniquely qualified to meet. She was living proof that humans and the collective could work together, could become something greater than either species alone. The war that might have destroyed both civilizations was over before it began, ended by a human woman who had refused to accept that some things were impossible. Maya Rodriguez had crashed into an alien's world and been transformed by the experience. Now she would spend the rest of her life building bridges between the stars, proving that the greatest strength in the universe was the willingness to protect those who needed protection, no matter how different they might be. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.